Beyond Light. A new chapter in Destiny? Well, yes and no. We got a new way to play the game with stasis, some for good, and a lot for bad. A venture into numerous places only mentioned in the history of Destiny, and the final of Oryx's Sisters finally showed our hand. But how did it all pan out? Well, let's find that out. Hello everyone, Firecrest here, and welcome to a Destiny video. Something I honestly am surprised I don't do more on, considering how much I play the game, but there you go. So, I figured not too long ago, why not do, since we're halfway through this particular expansion, let's just do a recap of everything to do with Beyond Light, and just see how it's doing, see how it stacks up. And I'd say it's been okay so far. It's been hit and miss, there's no doubt about it. It's been good, it's been bad, it's been really good, it's been absolutely awful. It's gone here, there, and everywhere, but we're still here at the end of it. New content is coming out for the season of the Splicer. There's some interesting stuff to be done, absolutely. And honestly, all I can think of is let's get into this review, starting with... a feeling all too familiar at this point, but welcoming nonetheless. A whole new area, a completely new feel and atmosphere to Destiny, and of course, many an error codes. However, the campaign and the Europa content in general was really solid. We got brand new content every week in, week out, so it made the game feel fresh and alive, and honestly, it was just really solid. I'll try to break everything down as much as possible, so here we go. Coming off the final mission Interference, where we killed Nokris, and the live event, we arrived chasing down the darkness on a brand new moon, Europa, chasing down the returning Varix while he runs from the latest threat, Eramis, and give or take goes on like a normal campaign, other than a few nice teasers on a certain Crypt. Atrax.
Critis and I can handle this. Return to the Crypt and prepare the body.
But more on that later. If there's something that I definitely noticed with this, is if you didn't want to have to spend a bunch of busy work or powering up in between missions, that was fine. You could easily take on these missions one after the other, and it felt fine to do so. It didn't feel like you were horribly underleveled and it was impossible to do. It felt like a true challenge, and it was really rewarding in that way. On top of that, the story flowed for each other from one mission to the next very well. You start with the first mission, obviously as a general introduction, and then from there, everything just flows together as it should. It was just a nice feeling for a change. It's not like Shadowkeep, where we have to go off and we have to make the Dreambane armor. Well, in this case, we would have... In this case, it doesn't make us go off and have to make the Christ Decree armor. It's just a bonus if you want to have some new armor. Then, after the main story is done, we have an epilogue, which was nice, where we actually had more content to follow after the main campaign, actually still adding to it overall. And with it, it also unlocked the rest of Europa, that being the Empire hunts and all the general perks that you could get with Varix and all that. To sum up, this is probably the most solid campaign we've gotten since Forsaken. Even if we only got Beyond Light, then I've just got to say, this was really good. There was just so much stuff to do, there was so much that was added, and the missions themselves were really fun. Not mainly since certain ice power got used. I would say that I maybe prefer this more than Forsaken's base campaign, but I think Forsaken was better. That opening mission in Forsaken was just incredible, and everything that followed in the Dreaming City, Last Wish, and everything was absolutely spectacular. But still, as an overall experience, I really do like Beyond Light, even if it doesn't have the most standout moments. But not to say that it doesn't.
Look within. Focus your power.
Ghost.
How interesting.
The only thing we have to break here is you.
Come on. Show me.
Finally, there's one more small short segment that I'd like to go over, and that's the extra stuff on Europa. So stuff like the Exo Challenges and the Empire Hunts. The Empire Hunts are the story missions over again with a higher difficulty, champions, and tougher modifiers. It also gives a nice farm for some materials like enhancement cores, prisms, and it has a bit of aspirational loot to being able to farm out high roll Chrysocrine armor, and of course the exotic Cloud Strike. Meanwhile, Exo Challenges are very interesting, given these are supposed to be what Exos experience upon their creation. With 3 different variants, then they are all okay in their own way, a bit lacking a challenge for a pinnacle drop, but regardless. With the Clovis AI speaking to us throughout, always giving us a fun little insight into his messed up mind. And it was a very, very excellent job by the creative team here, considering that this is what we thought the raid entrance would be. And wow, we were wrong. And yeah, no. But no, they're a bunch of fun, and it's a good way to get some pinnacle drops. Although, since I did mention the raid, I feel like we should get into that, you know? Wow, here we go. I have really wanted to share my experiences and my opinions on the Deepstone Crypt for as long as it's been out. And in my opinion, this raid is almost perfect. It's safe to say there's been more than a few discussions about the difficulty of this raid, and yes, it is a very easy raid in comparison to its predecessors and for what's come afterwards. But I will not deny that what the Deepstone Crypt lacks in difficulty, it makes up for with some good old-fashioned fun. If you think the raid is bad because of its difficulty, that's fine. You are entitled to your own opinion. But, in my opinion, difficulty does not make a raid good. Last Wish and Wrath of the Machine are not masterpieces because they are incredibly difficult, but because they are mechanically intense, fantastically designed raids in their own rights. And let's try stuff like the Vault of Glass, Scourge of the Past, and now the Crypt. All of these 3 raids, I mean, when I say Vault of Glass, obviously I mean the original one, not the current one. All 3 of these raids together are very easy, but they are fun to play through time and time again. Whether it would be for the loot, whether it would be for something else in particular, like you just enjoy a certain boss. It is just fun. So enough stalling, and let's get into one of the newest raids in Destiny, the Deepstone Crypt. So loading into this for the first time, it feels like a classic Destiny 2 start to the raid. In a familiar location, in the patrol zone of Europa, we find ourselves in a little corner with the way down to the crypt. It's a definitely very interesting time to go down for the first time and see a brand new area, and the opening puzzle to get through it is very interesting, and it's a lot better now that all the glitches have been patched. The opening very much reminds me of the first, and I quote, and I put in quotations, encounter in Crota's End, needing to reach specific places before you reach a stack that'll kill you. Only instead of Crota's End, it just slows you down massively. Now, once you get to the end, don't forget your free loot chest, and get inside to start exploring this place, which, atmospherically, so far, feels perfect. If the Deepstone Crypt was intended to be a locked-away laboratory, where no one was supposed to access it for hundreds, maybe even more amounts of years, man does it feel like it. At the end of a snowstorm in a secret bunker, and then even further past that, yeah. This was meant to be kept under wraps for a big reason. So go through the first hallway, collect whatever you want, and head into the first encounter, Security. So I mentioned before how the Deepstone Crypt is not the hardest of raids. In fairness, I'd say it's probably one of the easiest raids we've ever had. But it is very unique in its own mechanics, and nothing amplifies that like the first encounter. So to start this, you take the operator from the machines around the room. There's 2 up top and 1 below if you'd like to become Cooked Guardian. Once you've taken the operator buff, Enemies will start spawning on all sides, including a vandal with the buff called the Scanner. The Scanner's job is to look through glass to see which panels for the operator to shoot downstairs, and the operator shoots them, blah blah, you see where that's going. Once 4 panels have been shot, 2 on either side, the damage phase begins, with the Scanner needing to be sent downstairs to shoot the correct tubes in the middle, which will slowly destroy them all and eventually lead to the encounter probably being over in one phase. Yeah, I'm not going to lie, this encounter goes by so fast, and it was why everyone used it for farming spoils. But I still enjoy it, I think. It's a nice way to ease yourself into the encounter. And it's not the most easiest, it's not the easiest in the world. There's overload captains that'll mess you up, yellow bar captains, servitors that will spawn blocking off the machines, which will continue into the next encounter. And yeah, I enjoy it. And of course, if you don't want phase it, you do have to maybe change operators around or just have a bit of a reshuffle of buffs, so you do need to still keep a hand on it to manage it. But luckily, the next encounter isn't as easy, and I hope you got used to the buffs in the warm-up, because now, here comes the true test. Oh boy, here we go. What I would consider the hardest part of the raid and the make or break for fire teams, Atrax 1. Right after dropping a bombshell for the entire team. Ignoring the Fallen who kneels before no banner for now, let's get back to Atrax. At the start of the fight, split your teams however you like. You know, you can have 4 upstairs, 2 downstairs, blah blah blah. You can really split them however you like. Kill a bunch of adds until servitors spawn along with vandals that have the 2 buffs from the previous encounter. Oh, and the people upstairs, enjoy the trip. Once everything is dead, the, quote, wipe mechanic begins, and the only way to stop it is to find the true Atrax and destroy it before it's too late. He will then leave behind himself as a debuff, which you then pick up and yeet out into space before continuing on with the fight. Sending the Scanner through up and down stairs, you continue the process until you reach the final stand, at which point everyone should head upstairs and get ready to destroy one of 8 Atrax in the room. Let me say, first and foremost, this encounter is a little bit nuts. You really can go here, there, and everywhere with it. Whatever can go wrong in this encounter, will go wrong in this encounter. The buff can get knocked off the side of an edge, which is, I'm going to say, one of the most annoying things to happen. You could shoot the wrong you could take too long getting to an Atrax and he wipes the team, even though you just missed out on damage. And there was a thing a long time, well, not too long ago, where he would regain health if he did too much damage. This fight was a little bit glitchy, I'm going to be honest, and for that reason alone, I couldn't say that back then it was a good encounter, it was an amazing encounter, but now, after everything's fixed, and a proper challenge to see if you have really got the hang of these buffs, because it really does require a bunch of coordination from everyone involved. Because if one thing goes wrong, it really is wipe city. Miss a debuff? Wipe. Don't send the Scanner down in time? Wipe. You miss an Atrax? Wipe. You get to final stand, Atrax had 1 health, and you still miss it? The game doesn't care? Wipe. It is quite a brutal encounter. But this really is a test of true coordination with the team, more than a damage check, although you do need to have a lot of damage. That being said, there are plenty of methods now to use that, including the Curious of the Falling Star Titan Exotic, the Lament, and also the Crown Splitter that does a fantastic amount of damage. But anyway, if anything, it's still just going to remain an extremely memorable encounter. if not simply for the ride up into space and those famous words, status calamitous. But man, this is just one hell of an encounter, and it really gets the blood flowing and adrenaline pumping. If only there was something afterwards that could give you a nice break, a cooldown, and even a bit of loot. Oh yeah!
Artificial intelligence activated. Enjoying yourselves, intruders?
What can I say here that hasn't already been said? This, to me, and to many other people, is one of the most special moments in Destiny raids ever. A lot of the time, with these huge special moments, it's always about something dangerous happening and something huge is approaching, like Oryx rising up in the end of the Kingsfall raid to tower over you as the encounter begins, or Crota joining in as he summons himself into his throne world to fight you, or even finding Riven for the first time with her ginormous size completely overwhelming the player. But this is the exact opposite, and yet it has just as much, if not more, of an effect on me. There's hardly anything I could say that could do this section just, but I'm going to do my best. So, let's get the obvious part out of the way. The music you're hearing, Deep Stone Lullaby. What a track. It's gorgeous. It really is. It is, again, music, normally high, intense, hype, fast-paced, and adrenaline pumping. This, as the title suggests, it sounds like a lullaby. Peaceful, calming, and beautiful. And not to mention, and even though I haven't mentioned him yet, the Crypt AI, old Clovis Bray, has had a lot to say to us at this point, but these words in particular...
It's worth knowing the cataclysmic damage you will be responsible for today.
He may have a point with his words, one of the few times he is right. So, for instance, he says stuff like this.
Were it to fall into the wrong hands, humanity and the universe would be utterly doomed.
And this.
I have no reason to believe you are anything other than the wrong hand.
But his final line is the one that really interests me.
You now face godlike judgment. May it extend eternally.
That one line is something that I had to think over, and I had to really put it into context for myself and think, maybe he's right. Maybe what we are doing is wrong. He's probably talking more to the Fallen than us being the intruders, but we were still the ones who are scurrying about in the crypt uncovering its secrets. And let's be real, uncovering secrets and doing what's supposed to be for the best of humanity and overall, it's resulted in some awful stuff happening in a lot of the time. Think all the way back to Destiny 1 and Crota's End. When we killed Crota, we unknowingly just invited Oryx to come by and begin the Taken War, which killed most of the Awoken, and it really dampened the spirits of the entire system, let alone the damage it caused. And more recently, Riven and her last wish. It was the best decision for both of these at the end of the day, but we still did these things. We still caused the damage that came from them. Everyone's life that was lost. At the end of the day, that blood was on the hands of the Guardians and the Vanguard. But maybe, just maybe here, this is going to be different. This is going to be the one that changes it all. And today, we're going to do the right thing. And all we're going to do here, we're going to save humanity. We are going to stop the Fallen from Europa and get them out of here. So soak in the last of the time in the space warp and just enjoy the time out of here. Because, quite frankly, I don't think this is a moment that's ever going to be replicated again. Especially not with the Savathun coming along soon enough. But, yeah, this really is just something special. Hello, old friend was my first thought walking into this room with our old nemesis here. Even though the actual fight with him comes later, this is my favourite non-boss encounter maybe in Destiny's history. And no, the spacewalk, while amazing, I don't classify as an encounter. But bear with me. So, here we go. The main goal of this encounter is to disable the nuclear protocol and prevent Europa's destruction. So, you know, this encounter is completely normal in every way, although we are in a floating spaceship with a bunch of four-armed aliens, so who knows what's real anymore. The 2 buffs from the previous encounter are back, along with an extra encounter. The operator shoots the panels inside the arenas to deploy 2 nuclear bombs. The scanner is going to look in the middle of the arena to see these 4 boxes to see where we need to deposit the nuclear bombs to, I guess, disrupt the nuclear protocol, because it somehow makes sense. I'm not going to ask about the logistics of this. And finally, the U buff, Suppressor, is going to shoot Tanix in the face to stun him and allow the bombs to be deposited. Once again, logic doesn't really matter. The encounters works very well. Anyway, after each round, one of the 3 buffs gets deactivated, which means it's unusable and needs to be put in the machine, which was then taken by another player, which is then repeated throughout the entire encounter and in our next encounter. The main difficulty comes here from 2 yellow bar captains, the Overload captain, and if you say something bad about Tanix, he'll get a little bit grumpy with you. But overall, there's one word that describes this encounter: chaos. Utter chaos. This is about as hectic as it'll ever get for an encounter without actually being that difficult. I'm not gonna lie. Once again, another pretty easy encounter, but it is still crazy. After 6 rounds of the process continuing over and over again, the protocol is deactivated, but as you may have been seeing from outside, this ship is on a one-way crash course with Europa. So it's time to run. Head towards the safety room and get yourself out of the explosion. If not, well, we'll see you in another life. Oh, but if you manage to get in, then everything's safe. Although all these explosions in the running away part, I swear Michael Bay was in charge of this encounter. You're being chased by Tanix, explosions everywhere. I swear, this is just gets more and more chaotic as it gets on. And eventually, the ship will land on Europa. And yeah, you are back on Europa. And as you land, well, land is quite a loose term, but once you get back, you'll notice you're back where it all began. If you made it to this part of the raid, congratulations! You've saved Europa from crumbling into a million pieces and taken down God knows how many fallen at this point. However, there is one final challenge to overcome before we can officially say that this raid is done. Tanix, the Abomination, fused with a heavy shank and God knows what else, or who or what else at this point, is back for one last fight. So, it's quite similar to the previous encounter, in a way. So, the operator this time is going to have a different job. Rather than shooting panels, is going to be going back to the one where you shoot things off, shoot your teammates nearly. But in this case, you need to shoot them in case they get stuck by carrying the nuclear balls to the sides where they need to be dumped. In this case, and in most cases, you'll all be doing the 4-ball strat, which involves dropping all of the nuclear balls from Tanix's ride and taking them to the sides of the arena where he is not. The operator will shoot out anyone who gets stuck so they can continue walking. And yes, the walk can very much kill them because it is a very long one. Scanner doesn't really do anything in this fight, so if you're Navy Scanner, congratulations, you got a day off for today. The suppressor though is very important. He needs to shoot Tanix, so once again they can be dumped. Once all 4 have been deposited, everyone needs to converge at the spawn side of the arena and get ready for damage. And I've got to say, I really appreciate that this one was not just a simple everyone's using Izanagi's Burden and just using the conventional means of DPS. this time, everyone got to use slug shotguns. That really, I know obviously now it sounds completely normal, but no one would have expected that coming into this raid. No one would have been ready to use slug shotguns over snipers, but here we are. Double slug anarchy is the way to go for a kill, and from there, it is a pretty standard affair for damage. If you're good enough and your whole team is running the same thing along with one divinity, this should be an easy one phase to wrap up the Deepstone Crypt. Just one more final stand, and goodbye Taniks. Maybe. You might be back later. But for now at least, congratulations if you've done this encounter, because you uncovered and explored all the secrets that the Deepstone Crypt had to offer. And maybe you even picked up the Eyes of Tomorrow, which I probably didn't in this run. I don't know. Overall, just what an improvement over Garden of Salvation. It's not an understatement to say that I really dislike Garden of Salvation. For a mixture of boring encounters, annoying mechanics, and lackluster loot, it really has been burned into my head as something to hate. But I was so happy when the Deepstone Crypt came along with one of the most fun raids I've ever played in Destiny. As I said, as we've already gone over, the music, spectacular. And the setting of an abandoned laboratory taken over by Aramis' forces is an extremely fun time and almost mysterious in a way. It really is something it feels like a haunted house almost of Fallen. So it is sort of creepy in that way, but in another, it's also fun. And the loot? Well, what can I say about the loot? It's amazing. It is amazing. For the first time since Last Wish, almost all of the weapons here, I'd happily use. The Heritage Shotgun can get the role Reconstruction Recombination to absolutely destroy Taniks. It is a very much big part of the one phasing. Posterity and Trusty are probably the best rapid-fire scout rifle and rapid-fire hand cannons that we have. Meanwhile, the Heavy Sniper Succession, it has a very nice Reconstruction Vorpal weapon roll. Commemoration, the machine gun, is a decent replacement to Hammerhead, but nothing will ever replace that. And Bequest exists. But overall, fantastic raid, loved every minute of it, and honestly, I will happily play this raid over and over for seasons to come. But for now, I am going to leave this video here. This is going to be part one of just multiple videos I'm going to make on both the Season of the Hunt, the Chosen, and the Splicer. And overall, I'm just going to put everything one video at a time because I felt like putting it into one giant video was a little too much. So this is where this part's going to end, and next time we'll be picking up with the next two seasons, Season of the Hunt and Season of the Chosen. I look forward to seeing you then, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Take care, everyone, and goodbye.
Look what you got.